So guys, the problem of INEC declaring the wrong persons as winners of election in Nigeria did not start today. It has been existing for long. But do you know what? Nigerians were given hope after the new electoral bill was signed into law. Nigerians thought a new path to progress has been created by the new electoral bill. But I tell you, the opposite is the case. INEC is still in the business of declaring the wrong people as winners of elections. Just listen to this.
Now, the case of Peter Obi is more interesting. Here was a guy who was kept out of power for 3 years. He won election in 2003. But INEC declared that Dr. Chris Ngige was the winner of the election. So, the petition was contested for 35 months, almost 3 years. And in fairness to Governor Obi, after the verdict of the Court of Appeal, so what? I better go to the office to complete, to spend whatever is left of the term. And I said, no. I roar like a lion in Lagos. No. Your opponent had no term of office because his election had been annulled. So you can't complete his term of office. So you are going to start your own 4-year tenure the moment you take your oath of office.
Also, do you know that many Nigerians are of the opinion that the declared president-elect shouldn't be sworn in until the judiciary tells us who actually won this election? The question remains, should Bola Ahmed TINUBU be sworn in as the new president of Nigeria come 29th of May 2023? So guys, we have here a senior advocate who has got answers to these questions. So just take your time, relax and watch this video. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Turn on the notification bell for more uploads. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.
To the election and the subsequent donning of sackcloth and ashes, the time for atonement is here. And in that regard, it doesn't make sense to swear in people when there are issues to be settled in court, issues that have to do with legal challenges and the legitimacy of the electoral process. Well, he may well have a point. Well, the fact is that electoral law, as it currently stands, means that the inescapable destiny of Nigeria is that on May the 29th, Bola Ahmed TINUBU will be given the keys to the Aso Rock presidential villa. No two ways about that. So how then to resolve that dilemma into the future? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Nigeria's master of jurisprudence, Femi Falana, who is a respected constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, and senior advocate of Nigeria. What a pleasure and an honor to have you here, as always.
Thank you very much, Charles. I thought I was listening to a pastor.
You mean when we're talking about lamentation?
Yeah.
Well, it's only as it relates to the canon.
Old Testament.
Yeah. But Nigeria's big elections, the official results obviously came in some time ago in favor of Bola Tinubu and the APC, but now it's mired in legal challenges and lamentations of almost biblical proportions, yet the inauguration is going ahead because that's the law. But is it a moral, ethically sound law? Is it a fair rule?
Charles, I think it's too late in the day to cry or bemoan our fate. Since 2010, we have engaged in a consistent campaign for far-reaching electoral reforms along the lines suggested, the recommendations of the Waste panel, which I had said on this forum. Those recommendations were adopted by the panel set up by President Jonathan following the crisis that attended the 2011 presidential election.
Yar'Adua.
Yeah, no, it was Waste panel was set up by President Yar'Adua.
Right.
President Jonathan set up the Ahmed Lemu panel,
Right.
which adopted the recommendations of
Okay, yes, I see what you mean. Yeah.
ways wholesale. Again, President Buhari set up the Ken Namani panel, which also adopted the basic recommendations of the ways panel.
Yeah.
But to master the political will, to implement these recommendations have always been the problem. Because the people in power want to take advantage of the loopholes in the law, including those who are complaining now. And if you look at the dramatics personnel, which of them has not enjoyed what we are criticizing now? Governor Bola Tinubu, Vice President Atiku, Peter Obi, in fact more than anybody, had their elections challenged. And when those elections were challenged, they were in power. President Obasanjo and Vice President Atiku in 2003 and 2007, when they were challenged by candidate General Muhammadu Buhari, they were in power. In fact, in 2003, the election petition did not end until 2005. Now, the case of Peter Obi is more interesting. Here was a guy who was kept out of power for 3 years. He won election in 2003. But INEC declared that Dr. Chris Ngige was the winner of the election. So, the petition was contested for 35 months, almost 3 years. And in fairness to Governor Obi, after the verdict of the Court of Appeal, so well, I better go to the office to complete, to spend whatever is left of the term. And I said, no. I roared like a lion in Lagos. No. Your opponent had no term of office because his election had been annulled. So you can't complete his term of office. So you are going to start your own 4-year tenure the moment you take your oath of office. Every lawyer said I was talking bonkum. But later, he took advantage of my position and fought the matter from the High Court to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court made a point that your 4-year tenure commences the day you are sworn in. So I think I was, I was discussing, I think sometime last year, I asked Governor Obi, you took advantage of my advice. You haven't paid me, and you don't pay me.
I like that.
It was a public duty.
He didn't buy you a bottle of champagne? I'm disappointed.
No, you just said, no, you were rendering a public service.
Yeah, of course.
But after that, in 2007 again, 2009, Obi won the election. Andy Uba went to court to say, whereas in 2007, INEC had conducted an election, which was illegal anyway, and he said he had won. Therefore, my term of office, was kept in the cooler. So what are you talking about? Again, the battle went up to the Supreme Court. Governor Obi was in office. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court upheld, and decided that the election the gentleman was talking about was illegally conducted. Dr. Dachi Ahmed won election to the Senate in 2011. I think under the platform of CPC. His opponent, former Governor McAfee, went to court and was in court for almost a year. He eventually won, and Dr. Dachi Ahmed, who had been in the parliament, was then asked to vacate because it was proved that he didn't win the election. But he had spent about a year in the parliament. So this is the position. What the respected Cardinal Onayeka is talking about is what in law we call delegate ferenda as opposed to delegate. What the law is as opposed to what the law should be. For me, I've always believed that all election petitions should be concluded before the inauguration of an incoming government. But again, this time it's not limited to the president-elect. All the governors who have been elected, including the LP, Labour Party governorship candidate and governor-elect
in Abia
State, will be sworn in. All the legislators who have been declared winners of the election on the platform of PC, APC, PDP, Labour Party, and all of them will also be inaugurated on the 29th
right. But
May.
For the benefit of our audience who may not know these things, what is the law as it stands today with regard, for example, to the presidential
Now,
tribunal? I mean, there are different time frames for each level, aren't there?
By virtue of section 285 of the Constitution, election petitions shall be heard by our courts and determined within a period of 180 days. That's 6 months.
That is on the tribunal level.
Yes.
Yeah, the presidential.
Also at the Court of Appeal level.
Right. So that's another 6 months.
No. For the presidential election,
right,
it starts at the Court of Appeal, and then you have an option to go to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So if you have 180 days in the Court of Appeal, you have additional 2 months, 60 days in the Supreme Court.
Right.
In the case of governorship, which is the only one that allows for 3 stages.
Yeah.
You go to the election petition tribunal for 180 days, Court of Appeal for 60 days, Supreme Court for 60 days. That's keeping the governor in office for 10 months.
Yeah.
While his opponent or his opponents are fighting the legitimacy of his election. So this is the position. In fact, there's a provision of the Electoral Act, I think section 120, which provides that even if the tribunal or the Court of Appeal this time around says the man who has been declared the winner of the election has not been properly elected, he has 21 days to appeal. Again,
and he still remains in office, right?
Once the appeal is filed within 21 days.
Right.
So that is the law now. But what to now? But for me, these provisions were made when nobody thought we were going to have electronic voting, likely. Right. In other African countries, and this is very sad for us, in 2017, the Supreme Court of Kenya decided the election petition, presidential election petition, within 14 days. And I drew the attention of Nigerians to that development. I wrote a piece, which was widely circulated in the media, entitled Electoral Justice in Kenya and Nigeria. And I drew the attention of my colleagues particularly to the need for us to ask for an amendment of the Constitution. Because in other African countries, even Ghana here, the challenge of the presidential election is only taken at the Supreme Court. In Kenya, it's the same thing. You don't begin at the Court of Appeal. 2,
so it goes straight to the Supreme Court. Yeah.
In most other African countries, you have constitutional courts. These petitions go to the Constitutional Court, which these courts have 14 days to conclude the election petitions. At the time, the Constitution provided for 6 months. Nobody thought we're going to have the use of beavers machine or transmission of election results to the central server of INEC. So if we make the system to work, right? For me, all you need will be the reports of the beavers machine that has captured accreditation and the results that have been uploaded
to the IREV.
To the IREV.
But what
if you have those 2 reports,
you're pretty much sorted.
You can even have the petition decided in 14 days.
Yeah, but what I don't understand, but the fact though is that the 6 months is the limit. So it doesn't have to last that long, does it?
No, it doesn't have to last that long.
I mean, I'm wondering why the courts don't I mean, they don't have to take up the entire time. I mean, they can move a lot quicker than they are. That's the argument that some of your colleagues are making.
Again, because of the way and manner people take advantage of the provisions of the law. You file a petition, right, challenging the return made by INEC. Because the onus is on you to prove that the election was not properly conducted. Yes. I have problems with that. What happens? To serve your opponent is a laborious exercise. To get the materials from the electoral body is problematic. In Rivers State, I'm sure you are aware that some of the lawyers who were preparing an election petition to challenge the governorship election were arrested. And Governor Wike came out to justify it. Two tribunals now. The governorship election, the governorship tribunal, election petition tribunal, in Rivers State and Ebonyi State, have relocated to Abuja because the environment is hostile. Now, you then have a number of days to file your petition for the defendants or the respondent, if you get them to serve, to file their reply, and their time will begin to run when you have served them. To get the materials that you need, you will need to go to court and get an order compelling INEC, either at the national level or at the state level, to give you the materials. Now, you are going to call witnesses. The petitioners will have to call witnesses. The respondents will have to call witnesses. INEC will have to call witnesses. All this will take the entirety of the period. And of course, after hearing the case, the judges will need time to write the judgments.
To deliberate.
To deliberate, you know. So if we are going to take up the challenge facing us, we have to go back to the drawing table and ensure that we make the system to work.
Right. So you think that is what is responsible for what appears to be a delay to the start of the proceedings at the presidential level?
No, I won't call it a delay.
Right.
Yeah, those are responsible for the delay.
Right.
To get the
not something sinister, because some people have suggested that there's some,
No, I don't think so, because
going on.
Again, I'm saying that this is not the first time.
Right.
To get it's like you are going to serve somebody in Aso, right? Or you want to serve a copy of an election petition on a respondent. It takes time. On the INEC, sometimes you have to go and ask for substituted service. The procedure is time consuming. And at the end of the day, the judges will have to battle to be able to deliver their judgment within the 6 months. Right now, I think I was reading, I think it was in Bauchi, about 45 petitions have been filed. 45. And the judges have only 6 months to deal with them.
So basically they have to take the entire 6 months in order to properly
in many of the states,
create what resembles justice.
Over 50 petitions have been filed.
Yeah.
And again, as I've said before, Nigeria records the highest number of election petitions in the entire world because we have refused to make our system to work.
But what I don't understand is that, you were one of the people who over time pushed for electoral reform and are still pushing for it. That's why you had this new Electoral Act 2022 that was brought in. What is it that prevented the Waste Panel report from being incorporated into it as far as this part of it is concerned? When it was clear that it would significantly restore credibility to the electoral process and usher in sort of free and fair elections in Nigeria.
I think, unfortunately, the man who set up the panel, that's the electoral reform panel, the late Yaradua, could not implement the provisions.
Yeah, but I'm wondering why it wasn't incorporated into the electoral
all the
act.
other regimes, successive regimes, have preferred to retain the status quo because they profit from it.
Right.
Yeah. That's it.
So
and all the legislators also want to take advantage of the loopholes in the system to keep themselves in office.
Yeah. So basically, your assessment is that changes are required to electoral procedures, electoral functions, amendments to existing laws, and so on and so forth, as recommended by the Waste Panel.
No, we've gone beyond the Waste Panel.
Right.
We just have to embrace technology. The Waste Panel didn't think we're going to have beavers machines.
No, but I mean in terms of the time frame.
No, the time, what Waste Panel was pushing was that we should have enough time, let's say 6 months, conduct the elections 6 months before inauguration, so that all the petitions will have been concluded.
Yeah.
That was it. But now I am saying
that even at this the way it is now, you can speed the process up.
In this case, you conduct elections in February, right? If you embrace technology and make it work, we can conclude election petitions in 14 days or 21 days.
But what you're saying requires a constitutional amendment, or it doesn't?
For me, I think it requires... No, of course, it does require constitutional amendment. Because right now, the Constitution provides for 6 months. At the time that provision was entrenched in the Constitution, the drafters never thought we're going to go electronic. So if it is working in Kenya and some other African countries,
absolutely,
why can it not work in Nigeria?
Well, let me ask you to...
Unless, for instance, I'm talking of the presidential election.
Sure.
If you have gone electronic, you don't need to go to the Court of Appeal. Now, if you've gone electronic, you don't need to have governorship elections, right? You don't need to have 3 stages. Now, that is the only one. It's only the governorship election that will start from the election petition tribunal to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. All the others, 2 stages. So we need to also have a uniform electoral act that will capture the fears of Nigerians.
That's a good point. But let me ask you to put on your human rights hat rather than your legal hat, because your legal hat makes you very kind of black and white. This is what the law says and so on. And I mean, the way that you've explained it has been brilliant. But putting on the other, or maybe I should even say your civil rights hat, what a hammering Bola Tinubu and his aides are taking as a result of this election. What does he need to do to reduce the force of those hammer blows that each day remind him of the questions of legitimacy and credibility that trail him and his INEC declared election victory?
So you see, we had the situation in 2007 when the president-elect, the late Yaradua, came out publicly to say that the election that brought me into power was highly flawed. That's the language, highly flawed. And I'm determined to put an end to bad elections in Nigeria on the basis of which he set up the Electoral Reform Panel. For me, I do not expect that the government that will be inaugurated on the 29th of May would think it's going to be business as usual. That question of legitimacy will have to be addressed. And interestingly, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu set up a committee as a non-state actor. After he had left as governor of Lagos, he set up a committee to promote the recommendations of the Waste Panel. And you trust Nigerians. Once he gets to power, he's going to be reminded. This was your position.
You're certainly reminding him.
This was your position. Right. Incidentally, it was Alhaji Lai Mohammed that headed the body, that was campaigning for electoral reforms, as recommended by the Waste panel,
Let me just say that it's a perverse world, isn't it? It's a perverse world. Look, I want to thank you exceedingly. I mean, it is always an absolute education in jurisprudence listening to your analysis. Femi Falana is a respected constitutional lawyer.
So guys, as the election tribunal proceedings begin, we all will open our eyes wide. We want to see what our judges will say. We want to see how they tackle all these points. We want to see the process. Peter Obi said, I'm challenging the process. Let us watch out to see how judiciary is going to defend the process through which INEC declared Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the winner of the election. Let's watch out and see what our judiciary is going to do. Let's see if they are patriotic. Let's see if they are real Nigerians. Let's see if they are there to defend democracy or they want to kill democracy. Let's check out their stance when it comes to Bola Ahmed Tinubu being declared the president-elect despite all the controversies. Remember, INEC gave guidelines that they did not follow. And till today, INEC has not told us why they refused to upload the presidential elections. Don't forget why they refused to upload the presidential election results. Don't forget that we had 3 different elections on that day. The other 2 were uploaded, but that of the presidential was not uploaded, and INEC came out at 4 a.m. in the morning while people were sleeping to declare the winner of this election. Don't you think something is wrong? Don't you think INEC's behavior looks so much suspicious? Don't you think this is an opportunity for patriotic Nigerians to analyze this election and come up with better steps for our electoral progress? So guys, as we look forward to the election hearing, I just pray that the right thing will be done. So please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. Turn on your notification bell for more uploads, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.